Welcome back to 3D Fashion 101. I am Aisha and this is episode 2. Last week we talked about 3D fashion design and the tools which are Clo3d, Blender, Dash Studio, and Marvelous Designer. And I know a lot of you are thinking, okay, but which one do I start with? And that is exactly what we are tackling here today. We're talking about Clo3d versus Blender. What is actually the difference between them? What each one can do, and which one you should focus your attention on depending on whatever it is you want to do with. So let's get into it, and I'll be starting with Clo3d. So Clo3d is a software built specifically for fashion. Every single feature in Clo3d helps you to design, simulate, and present clothing. That is it. That is all it does, and that is because these two focus specifically on fashion. When you open your Clo3d, you will see two major panels. The one on the left, which is your 2D pattern window. This is where you create and edit your flat pattern pieces, just like the one you do with your physical fabric. And the one on the right, which is your 3D window, is where you see your pieces come together in 3D form. The magic of Clo3d is its fabric physics engine. Simulate. We see that drapes and moves exactly the way real fabric should. Clo3d has an avatar system that allows you edit your avatar sizes and measurements to whatever desired measurements you want. This is a major big deal for brands that want to show their wide range of sizes without having to make physical samples. Okay, now let's talk about Blender. Blender is a completely different tool. It is a general 3D purpose tool, meaning it's designed to do everything: 3D modeling, sculpting, rigging, particle systems, compositing. It is a lot, I know. And the interface is not built around fashion the way Clo3d is. You're working in an environment where you have to build things more manually. Of course, Blender has a cloth simulation system, but it works very differently from Clo3d. Clo3d, you work from patterns the way a real fashion designer is going to work, but in Blender, you're more likely to model the shape of the garment and apply simulation to the 3D objects. But for me, where Blender absolutely shines is the render engine, especially cycles. And a lot of 3D fashion designers actually use Clo3d and Blender to create their garments, and I am one of them. I use both. I use Clo3d to make my garments, and then I render in Blender. Blender is absolutely free, but Clo3d has a pricing unit which we are going to talk about in another video. So let's do a head-to-head comparison between Clo3d and Blender, and I'm going through this in 5 categories. So category 1 is ease of learning for fashion designer, and Clo3d wins in this one because it's more or less like you're trying to make your garments in the real world, but then you're doing it on your computer. Blender needs a different skill set or knowledge to make garments. Category 2 is fabric and garment realism. Clo3d tops this for me because its physics engine is purpose built for fabric. Blender cloth simulation can look great as well, but then it needs more technical knowledge to get a more realistic fabric behavior. And the third category is rendering quality. For me, Blender ticks this box, especially because of the Cycles engine. I won't say Clo3d's render are bad. They're quite great as well, but then I prefer Blender because it gives me more freedom to create cinematic visuals, play with my lighting, and build more environments. Category 4, which is the cost, Blender wins because Blender is absolutely free and open source. Clo3d is subscription based, could be monthly or yearly, and it ranges from $25 to 75 depending on which subscription you're going for. And the good thing is, if you're a student, you get more discount, 50% discount. And also there is a free trial for about 14 days if you're just starting out and you'd like to see what it is before you go fully into subscription. Category 5 is relevancy for fashion jobs. When you check job boards for 3D fashion listing, you would basically see Clo3d as the requirement. But when it comes to gaming, that is where you mostly see requirements for Blender. Clo3d can also work for gaming as well, but then you might need to take it a step further by trying to like clean up your UVs and whatnot. But that is not the purpose of this series. This series is basically for fashion. So you might be wondering, oh, Aisha, you're talking about gender, you're talking about Clo3d. Which one should I do? In my honest opinion, or let me say, my recommendation for you is Clo3d. If your goal is to work in the fashion industry, whether as a full-time designer, freelancer, or you just want to create a portfolio, I would say you start a Clo3d. The industry runs on it. clients ask for it. And then once you learn garment construction in Clo3d, Blender is very easy for you to pick up. If your goal is gaming, metaverse, or just 3D in general, my advice is to start with Blender. It's subscription free. It's going to save you the cost. So in the next episode, I'm going to walk you through on how to make your first garment in Clo3d. It's nothing serious, just a basic t-shirt. So if you have questions about which tool is right for you specifically, kindly drop them in the comments. I'll be going through all of them one by one. Subscribe if you haven't. Episode 3 is coming next Monday, and we are finally getting our hands on the software. You don't want to miss that one. Bye for now. Toodles.